Bam, we're live. Matt Burns, hi. Chris, hi. Renata, hi. Matt Burns, hi. Jethro, hi. Jethro, hi. Elizabeth, hi. How's Jethro? Caitlin Farrell, hello. Chris Love, hi. Chris Love. Mason Mitchell, all of you. Sarah Cooper, Jessica Valenzuela. Did Sevan ever eat that chocolate dick? If you tuned in this morning, you'd know. Intact. Well, not really. It's circumcised, but you know what I mean. And we'll see if that thing melts this summer. Just sitting there. Quarterfinals are over. Byron Smith, hey. Barry, late again. Who, me or you? Ryan, hi.
Hey.
Mr. Howell, hi.
Hello.
Souza, hi.
Yo.
We have a spreadsheet from Brian Friend. We have an article from Michael Haplin. We have rumors pouring in from every nook and cranny. We have articles from The Spin. We have Training Think Tank commentary and thoughts. We have Mayhem thoughts. We have, holy shit, it's chaos. Let me ask you this before we just jump right into.
Don't forget about Uncle Pat.
Uncle Pat, thank you. Why Uncle Pat? I mean, I like it. I'm down. Why Uncle Pat?
Well, that's what Nico called him in the intro. So I was just making a reference.
That's awesome. That but that's been around for a while, right? Uncle Pat.
Yeah, other people have used it too.
Lydia, hi. The chick that has a great profile pic but chopped out her ex-boyfriend. Good evening. What do you think about that, JR? There's a picture you really like. Your ex is in it, and you just crop them out. What do you think?
I think it's okay.
All right.
Buy a Google Pixel, and you can take it out yourself.
Oh, that's interesting.
Just go get out of here.
You mean with the Google Pixel phone that those can do that?
I believe so.
Soccer mom.
Hey, by the way, PC is getting an iPhone.
No shit.
We might be able to bring him back on the show.
There he is. Patrick Clark. I have thoughts, Grandpa Pat. Oh. C Hill. Oh my goodness. C Hill, you changed your. What is that sitting in the chair? Is that a person? You changed your pick. Y'all got real jobs or something? We got to move these shows up an hour. There.
That's a novel
Seymour
idea.
Butts.
I can't do it.
Justin Liang. Am I right, C Hill? You change your profile picture. Am I right? Is this the most contentious? I'm open to a different word. I'm totally open to a different word. Online or in-person event that's been run by the mothership in your guys' memory. I'll be gentle. I wasn't going to say in the history of CrossFit, but in your guys' memory.
I think that
Or
there's
do you
some
think
context needed in that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
For me, what relevant is that, quarterfinals is a new part of the competitive season. And usually when I'm doing a study, and we've talked about this with CrossFit before. Like, for example, when they were outsourcing semifinals, I thought it was kind of ridiculous that they only gave 1-year contracts, because you're going to make mistakes in year one. And it's like, if you're going to hold those people to their mistakes from year one and say, so we're not re-upping you for year two, it's like, I mean, come on. Like, I thought they should give them 3-year contracts. They may have known that they weren't going to be around for 3 years, and so they might have had their own reasons for not doing that. But in this case, this is year 3 of quarterfinals. Now, the first year was, this is year 3 of quarterfinals. And so by year 3, I think things should be running fairly smoothly. And I feel that whether or not the answer to that question is yes, what I feel confident saying is that there haven't been enough improvements from year 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 to make me confident in the team that's administering this portion of the test.
Wow. And when you say confident,
the fact that it's year 3 and you have to ask that question is really all that you should need to know.
Oh, right. If I'm even wondering if it's
The third year should not be the worst year ever. Like,
Okay.
of a thing. And in this case, I'm only talking about quarterfinals because the other parts of the season some of them haven't happened yet, and that's what we're focusing on. So I would say that the fact that this is the third iteration of it, and that there are people that are wondering if this is the worst job they've ever done with any part of the season, that's not a good sign, regardless of if that's the case or not.
Okay, so you're saying, okay, so the fact that I'm even asking the question gets us off on the wrong foot, or says a lot.
It gets
Not
the ball rolling.
Says a lot. Yeah, it says a lot. Jr., do you does this seem like a particularly bogged down year? Hey, could it also be that this is the most media we've had in a while too?
I was going to say, I think along with the
you got assholes like me and Hiller just chiming in. We got just tons of just shows, and
I think we've got a lot more people with opinions that aren't afraid to express them on public platforms. But I also think that the amount of talk can also be a good thing, and I just think there are a lot of people excited about the start of the season. So when you have this many people talking about it positively or negatively, some would say that's always a good thing.
Or what about this? Maybe we're all getting puffy chested, pointing our nipples up in the air because there's no Dave Castro training think tanks lipping off. You got fucking me over here fired from the company lipping off. You got Andrew Hiller only gives a shit about views lipping off. You got Rich over there with Dave gone lipping off. You just got people. Maybe that it's some of that.
Yeah, it could be
that the fucking bullies that gone.
Right.
And we're all fucking like, the alpha's gone, and we're all just kind of jockeying for position, talking our shit. Maybe we'd shut up if there was someone we thought was a little more in control.
Maybe, or maybe not.
Right.
I don't really know how Dave feels about the quarterfinals. I don't know really how Dave would manage the quarterfinals over a period of years. We got to see him take the Open from its inception through a decade, or more. We got to see him take the CrossFit Games through 15 years. We got to see him take every version of a stage of the season through a progression. And for the quarterfinals, he was around for only the first version of it. So
we also saw Joe Alexander fuck up the Dan Bailey count. Love you, Joe, and get fired. and then we saw the wrong we saw the wrong weights used at in the opening workout of the Open, and a letter was set out from HQ saying how great their team did. I mean, that's a pretty crazy fuck up. I give Joe his job. I give Joe his job back as a judge. By the way, Joe still works with the company. Obviously, he just got slapped down as a judge.
I mean, I have heard from people who worked at CrossFit, in the late 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11. This month, I've heard from them. They've reached out to me and said, "This is insane." Like, the punishment would have been extreme for something that was much more insignificant than the mistakes that are being made by certain people, public mistakes that are being made by certain people now. But we shouldn't really limit that to CrossFit. I mean, the world in general is becoming a little bit more soft in that regard, a little bit more forgiving and lenient, and afraid to kind of hold people to certain standards or accountability because of this culture that's emerged in the last few years of canceling people and rejecting people who are having honest conversations. So CrossFit may be just caught up in the wave of that's I would say affecting humanity right now.
Susie, you tripping? Is that Brian Friend? Is that an AI? We were just looking at AIs. Today I showed the eighth wonder of the world on my morning show. He said it might be an AI. I'm starting to think you're an AI. Well said, Brian. Wow, you're getting squirrely. The bully would have never let this happen. Okay. Let's where do you want to start? I'd like to just propose this idea. Let me just propose this idea. If you guys don't like it, we can start somewhere else. It was an idea I had the other day. When you have 17 regionals, granted it's a shitload, you have 17 different areas where people come up into the games who are first place winners, right? 17, and you have 17 second place guys, and you have 17 third place guys, and that brings a certain excitement to the games. And I was just thinking about this depth that's in the semifinals now. The semifinals might take all the air out of the room, right? Because when we go to the games, it's going to be, we're only going to be thinking that the only person who has a chance of winning the games are the person who took first in Europe, first in North, maybe or Northeast, and maybe Northwest.
No, not true.
No, okay.
I do know what you're saying. The winner of the Oceanic region and for the men will also probably have a chance
To win the games.
Yes.
Okay.
Most likely, unless
Jay Crouch. I knew
Jay
it.
beats him again.
He's a closet Jay Crouch fan. I knew it. All right.
I do want to talk about that. That's the spreadsheets that I sent you guys earlier today are to that regard. Is that you had mentioned that to me or the group of us a few days ago, and I'd been thinking about it. I wanted to wait, and just in case anyone's not aware, the quarterfinals leaderboards are not finalized yet. They are supposed to be finalized on Monday, March 27th. CrossFit does have the opportunity to extend that deadline if they see the need to. But I think that at this point, the leaderboards are fairly well-rounded, where this morning, for the first time, I actually looked at them following quarterfinals with from an analytical perspective to see, okay, what are these fields for semifinals actually going to look like? And that's what I put together today so that we can actually start talking about that question.
The semifinals, the semifinals or the leaderboard for the quarterfinals, you're saying isn't officially closed for another 3 days. And look at the calendar. Today's the 24th. They said it would be closed on the 27th, but you're feeling pretty confident that we're locked in.
Not locked in, but pretty close. Close enough that I thought, especially since we're doing this show, kind of the wrapping up the online stage of the season for the elite individual athletes, that we would be able to paint a little bit of a picture about what's happened so far and what's going to happen, 2 months from now.
There's a question here about William Leahy. I think we will be talking about William Leahy in specific. I got him in my notes. Good old Bill.
But probably would rather put that on hold for a while.
Sure.
Come back to that towards the end of the show.
Sure. Okay. Okay. So where did you want to start? Where do you want to talk about this? Who's going? Do you want to actually just pull up the leaderboard and look at who's going and why it's going to be exciting? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I mean, fine. If you're desperate to do that, we can do that. Sure.
Tell me. Where do you want to start? You want to look at these this spreadsheet right here with the blue? Hey, this was really nice. These categories you gave: games athlete, strong competitor, relevant competitor. Does relevant mean your ass? No. Brian has broken down the field into these 3 categories.
I think
this is not the full field, by the way. But
I mean, without seeing the spreadsheets, I would think that relative might just mean someone who has the ability to flip the leaderboard.
I did share them with you, actually, JR, but I know you've had a crazy day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. JR, everything good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, good. So should we pull up the spreadsheet to start with? You want to do that? You cool with that?
Good as place as any, I guess.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. Are these people in the blue, these people that are all of these people already qualified? These are the qualified people?
No.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So everyone on this list everyone in this list that's not in red, which says did not qualify, are currently occupying a qualifying position to their respective competitive regions semifinal. The ones in blue, well, if we can see the top, you can see the actual semifinals, so you know which ones we're talking about. And then they'll have the number of guaranteed spots and then the number of allocated spots that they will end up having. And we're pretty confident in those numbers. I've been some of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight. I've been vetting with Halpin. And basically what you're going to see here is several things. First of all, the worldwide ranking and strength of fields have done exactly what I said that they would do the first time that we talked about them, which is nothing at all. They have had little to no impact at all on the distribution of game spots relative to the competitive field, which is what they're supposed to be doing. And we can see that right here. Last year, there were 21 spots for North American women because they took one of the last chance qualifiers. And this year, they're going to get 21 spots. They'll be distributed 12 and 9, almost definitely. And last year, European women had 11 spots. And this year, they're almost definitely going to get 11 spots. I would say that the maximum plus or minus on any of those is 1. So they'll be within 1 of whatever number we have listed there, second part of the hyphen or the slash. Oceania, South America, Asia, and Africa will probably not get any extra spots. And the women in blue are the ones that competed at the games last year. So the woman who competed for Africa at the games last year is going on a team this year, so there's just no one. Sung Young Choi is injured this year, so there's only one for Asia. Both South Americans are coming back. Obviously, Tia and Kara are out, so there's going to be some new blood in Oceania. In Europe, there are, I think, 10 of the returning 11. In North America West, there's 9 of the returning whatever there were, and 9 again, so 18 out of 21 in North America. So all of the spots that were taken away were from North America and Europe. All the spots that will be redistributed are from North America and Europe. And what we can see right here is that it's going to be pretty competitive. Like if you count down the list of North America East, there's 9. And then you just look at Emma Carey. We'll just take 3. Emma Carey, Shelby, Neil Fisagavi. There's your 12. So if you want to get in, you have to be able to beat one of those people.
You know, it's interesting. Originally, I thought that the East was going to be the tougher region, but now that the West is down to 9, I'm thinking the West might be the tougher region.
Especially when you look at that group in green. So
yes.
The group in green were not at the CrossFit Games last year, and the group in blue were. And I think that there are a lot of people listening in, and if I said, hey, if you had a bet on one of these 2 people to have a better finish at the CrossFit Games, would you take Katrin David's daughter or Bailey Rail? That it would be a pretty even distribution. Will you take Lauren Fisher or Rebecca Fusile? Will you take Bethany Shadburn or Freya Moosbrugger? Will you take Chloe Wilson or Sydney McAlishan? Will you take Kelly? You just keep going down the list. Kelly Baker's been crushing it this season. So there could actually be a ton of turnover in the West. Like of those 9 that are in blue, if they only get 9 spots, it's possible that only 4 or 5 of them make it back this year. And it's also possible that some of these athletes that thought that going out to the West would be an easy road to the games are going to have a rude awakening when they come to the semifinals and realize that there's a lot of competitors there.
Let me just switch subjects real quick just to mess with JR here for a second. JR, column B is the Northeast. Who wins that?
Mel.
Column F is Europe. Who wins that?
Laura.
Okay, now we got a problem. In column D, go back to North America West. Who wins that? Oh, Nelly. That's why that's going to be a show, huh?
I still think it's Ariel Lowen. I don't.
You do that? Well, I like that.
Yeah.
That is going to be a show there.
I think she's by far the most well-rounded with that group of athletes.
Okay.
Yeah, she has the most impressive and complete, performances over the past 2 seasons of anyone on this list.
Okay, now let me say something that's going to break my heart going back. Ariel, if you're listening, if your husband's listening, now's a good time to, I don't know.
By the way,
go in the other room and water the plants or something. There's no fucking way Ariel Lowen has a chance against Mal O'Brien or Laura Horvat. That's what I'm saying. Like these are the games. I just feel like these are going to end up being the games. Yes, no.
Who's going to win the games?
It's going to be Mal O'Brien, then Laura Horvat. I mean, don't get me wrong. It would be amazing if Ariel Lowen got up on that podium. But there it is. Those are your 2 right there. And then the rest of those people don't even matter to the right.
Well, okay. So this is the line
don't
of thinking.
Do my Ariel. Okay. All right.
No, this is the line of thinking that has been problematic for CrossFit historically.
Mm-hmm.
We got the winner, so we're good. No. Like if that's the line that you're taking, then I guess that's fine, but that's not what most of the people that are watching and participating in the sport are interested in. They're interested in finding their ranking relative to the world and knowing how their person is gonna fare relative to the field. Yes, there's obviously a ton of interest in the winner overall for the CrossFit Games. But it's to me, a sport is far more interesting if all of the other places also matter.
Yeah, and I agree. But wouldn't it be great if from the Northeast you took Emma Lawson, from the Northwest you took Danny Spiegel, and from Europe you took Gabriella Magawa, and then maybe went through there one more time and took those 6 and made another region. And now we have 4 regions with 4 first place people. And maybe we just do that more and glorify the athletes a little more. I know it's cost prohibitive. But I just feel like they've narrowed this down so much that
Seems to me like you're almost worried about
seems like a step backwards.
The athlete's ability to monetize themselves too. Like you think that after the semifinals, the ones that finish 7, 8, 9, I mean, look who's at 7, 8, 9 on this list. You know,
Right.
Those are big names that you're almost like, oh, no one's going to even be thinking about them because they didn't finish 1 or 2.
Right. And I want some hype. Like that was, I mean, look at even the Atlas games. No matter how much I shit on it, I was still fucking excited about their 1, 2, 3 over there. Who did they end up having? They had Emma Lawson. Was it Paige Zemenza? Who was over there? Paige
Powers.
Paige Powers. Yeah, Paige Powers got to stand out there. Anyway, it's a moot point at this point. But
I mean, no, it's a worthwhile conversation. But at the same time, I'm not like that upset that I get to see Justin Medeiros and Pat Vellner compete head to head twice in a season instead of once.
Fair enough. Good. Yeah. Great point. Yeah. And great point. And I'm excited to see Emma Lawson and Mal go at it more than once too. Great point.
Yeah. And in a big field, with 60 athletes, in those 3 semifinals, a lot can happen. If we, as we look at some of the semifinals in particular, you're going to see that there's a really, really dense group of strong athletes there. And suddenly, if you're an athlete like, a games athlete that maybe struggles a bit on the strength test, you might take a little bit bigger hit relative to the field than you would have in a different format. And that, that we've seen it happen before. I mean, we saw it last year with Haley Adams. So she was in 21st or whatever it was and had to fight her way back in over the course of the weekend. But, you see what happens in online competitions when there's hundreds and thousands of people and suddenly you have, people that get whatever score on the strength test and they're getting like 500th place when all their other scores are like in the top 50. And that's extremely penalizing. And so there's going to be twice as much penalty potentially for a bad performance, which will have and that'll keep more people relevant potentially throughout the weekend. And with the deeper fields, you might get some people coming out of, heats 1, 2, and 3 that have, some pretty competitive scores on something that might be right up their alley.
How excited are we that all of these regions will be doing the same workout? It's great, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it gives us not as much to talk about, but I think we'll all be reminded of how cool that was week to week, getting to compare, seeing the athletes have another week to prepare and then they go faster than the week prior, and all of us saying things that are not super rational, like, oh, well, she beat her time by a minute, so she's going to beat her at the games, stuff like that. But I mean, I'm just looking at blue while you guys are talking and looking at blue all the way across. And like in the East, there's 6, I don't want to say locks, but very high likelihood 6 top 10 at the games competitors. You don't have that at all in the West, maybe 1 or 2, the most. I would say 1. Wow. So while the West may be exciting for the different reason, they probably will have less spots. It'll be maybe a lot more jockeying day to day. There may be more movement. It may come down to the last. Like, to me, 6 or 7 of the spots in the East are like, well, and unless there's something programming wise that exposes someone, those are being taken.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, you have an athlete like Paige Powers who's in that field, just coming off a win at Wodapalooza, crushing basically every workout in the opening quarterfinals except for one. And people are starting to speculate. I mean, I think people have this. They often jump to massive conclusions that are unwarranted, but she's doing great. And now she gets to go into a semifinal field with 6 proven top 10 games athletes. If she finishes 3rd in that field, we've actually learned quite a bit about her, and she becomes a lot more interesting in terms of podium contender, top 10 contender at the games as well. If she goes in there and there's a big drop off after the top 6 and she's just beating everyone else, which I don't think is going to happen, by the way. I think she's going to be competitive with most of the women that are those top 10 women's in the semifinal stage.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
But even if she is, then we might say, okay, well, we saw her do that with Emma Lawson last year. She went toe-to-toe with her in the semifinal, lost to her by less than 10 points, but she showed up at the games, and there was this massive disparity. So even if she wins Wodapalooza, how many workouts are there? How many days is that competition? It's only 2. She wins the Open, 4 tests over 3 weeks. She does good in quarterfinals, 5 tests over 3 days. She does good at semifinals, 7 tests over 4 days. She still hasn't proven to me that she can actually compete with the best in the world on 15 tests over 4 days.
Semifinals is 7 tests.
We don't
I'm
know.
just guessing based on what history has been.
And something else that we have discussed to keep mindful of is that the Northeast, the North America West, and Europe will all be taking 4 days to do the competition. Now we're not sure if that means they'll have 4 days to do all of those workouts, or if that's because of the teams. But there could be a different stimulus at those compared to the people who have to do it in 3 days. Correct?
Yeah, potentially for sure. And there are several deep details of semifinals we don't know. That's just one of them.
Yeah, I can't see them having a structure that would have one group of people doing 8 in 4 days, 2 a day, and then having another group of people do the same amount of tests in less days.
No swimming for sure, right? Too many locations.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Anything else ruled out because of that?
I actually asked Adrian about that in Omaha,
Mhm.
and he said like I would consider programming swimming in the semifinals, but it's really difficult logistically.
And what about your thoughts of maybe there being at least one semifinal that ends up being different? Would you guys be bummed if you found out South America and Africa had their own that was slightly different? How would you judge CrossFit for that if like 2 of their workouts were different because of equipment issues?
Well, I mean, we've had that happen in the past. Like even this workout that was repeated, the regional legless rope climb workout, the original version of that, the Asian semifinal, didn't have a field that could go the full distance. So they had a slightly nuanced, different version of that. So I guess it's possible that it could happen again. It does kind of muddy the waters in terms of cross semifinal comparison leaderboards and conversations. But again, we in most of those smaller regions that are getting less spots to the games, those athletes aren't really factoring in or competitive with the larger regions anyway.
Yeah, see, he'll know because they are irrelevant. The thing is, I wouldn't judge them either for that. Here's the thing: I don't think everyone should be punished because they have trouble getting yokes to fucking Africa. So I'm totally fine with Africa as long as they're doing their best in that department to get everyone to do the same thing. I think it's pretty cool.
Let's look at the small. I would like to look at the smaller continents for the women, though, because as I was going through this, as you'll see, you see that Oceania gets 3, South America and Asia get 2, Africa gets 1. And I was going through the leaderboards. I think that most of the people listening know that I have a fairly good knowledge of the athletes competing in these regions. And so I was pulling out athletes that I thought would be, relevant at least to this conversation. And in Asia, we have Seher Kaya, who everyone knows from the games last year, coming back. You have Dawan Young, who's been around and competing. And she's actually, I think, the top seed going into the semifinal. And then there's this girl that I've never heard of before, Kamila Takeyeva, who had a pretty competitive quarterfinal relative to anyone else. And I hardly know anyone else on that entire list that's competing there. None of the Russian women are showing up again this year. Sung-Young Choi is out. And there's just no depth of field there. And I'm pretty sure that when we run the studies, when Halpin runs all the studies after quarterfinals finish up, that we're going to see very few of them filtering towards the top of the leaderboard. And it's just puzzling to me how they're warranted getting 2 guaranteed spots to the games.
Do you think that they should get 1 spot guaranteed?
Yeah, I think everyone should get 1. Everyone should get 1 guaranteed. You already know that. And I have, bigger picture, all the conversations I've been having during the quarterfinals and the fallout of it always end at the same point, which is that this is not working. And what's the solution? And that's something I'd also like to talk about tonight at some point.
Sevan's $1.99 for the African yoke fund. Pull that. Sorry, Susan. One more time. Let's take a peek over there, and I'll make a note here. Changes to. I saw Louise. Just falling into the weeds here a little bit. I saw Louise Marquez. Over at Mayhem in the Mayhem video today when I was checking it out. Any chances of her making it past Julia Cato or Victoria Campos? She's a brick shithouse.
Yeah, I got the chance to train with her while I was there. Her and Lucas DeRosa are living there for part of the season and training there. I think they were at least staying through quarterfinals, though. I think they will go back to South America in the lead up to the semifinal. But personally, for the women in South America, I think that the top 4 women on there are the only 4 that have a chance to make it, and 2 of those 4 will make it. I'm not sure which 2.
And Victoria Campos, you know what's crazy is when in the preview when they were running it, I thought she was China Cho. She's like a China Cho version too. And where's she from? Victoria Campos? What country?
Brazil. So Victoria, Julia, I think Luisa are Brazil, and Sasha's Argentina.
Crazy. All right. And Oceania, there's a comment down there. It came and went. What 3 there? You have issues with that?
No,
What would you-
not
what
this
would-
season. I think it's appropriate. I think if you have Tia and Cara in the field, that it looks a little bit suspicious. And I think that their competitive performances and the 2 stages of the season so far would show that, especially if those 2 were in the field. But given the athletes that are there this year, again, I mean, look, the girls in yellow are a lot of them are up and coming and could have made some big improvements this year and could certainly prove me wrong. I would be very surprised if the 3 qualifiers to the games don't come out of the blue and green athletes right there.
Out of all those athletes there in the green, 2 of the best ones are in Oceania, right?
Oh, of course. Oh, just these 4?
Yeah,
Yeah, I would say that
at least 2.
of
right?
all the women in green on this page here,
Yeah.
Jamie, Maddie, and probably Caitlin are better than the rest of the girls in the green.
Right. And are they better than the rest of the girls in the blue?
Other than Ellie, yeah.
Other than, right. Yeah. Okay. You have any concerns about Ellie? She going to the games?
No, I'm not concerned about her at all. I think it's actually worked out in her favor that she's competing in Oceania. I think that the West would have been a pretty difficult, like we saw, a very difficult field. Not necessarily because of the ones in the blue, but because of the ones in the green and yellow that are, there's just a lot of parity there. There may not be a lot of top 10 games athletes, but you got like 15 women that are pretty, like I could see that weekend go in a lot of different ways for the North America West women.
All right. Oh, look at money.
Yeah, I just can't wait to see the test. Like you look at North America East, there's so many heavy hitters. There's so many really strong athletes there, lifting wise, and I'm really curious to see how the programming shakes out. If what we're accustomed to seeing is what we see with some kind of external load, max lift, if that's in the equation, if it's not in the equation at all, if it's all kettlebell, if it's no barbell, if it's all barbell, if it's all dumbbell, if it's all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Can you scroll over and show us North America East, Souza? Quit staring at Miss Mendoza and trying to figure out if she's AI. She looks like one of those AI pictures you showed me earlier. Well, how do you say this name right here? Milsili Mendoza? Milsili? Are you an AI? We were looking at AI pictures earlier. Okay. I say we take a quick peek at the men, and then we'll come back here.
Sure.
And we'll talk about that. I do think the subject that JR was touching on and talking about the athletes in specific could be maybe its own show. We could definitely touch on it here, but definitely I'd love to tear into all the picks.
I mean, yeah, we'll obviously come back to semifinals in the build up to them and throughout that time period. But this is one of the main objectives, if not the main objective of quarterfinals, is to vet the remaining competitors for this stage of competition. And this is kind of what the snapshot looks like right now.
So were the women 10 or 9 and 12, and the men are 10 and 12? The men get one more.
Going left to right, the women were 12, 9, 11, and the men are 12, 10, 10.
Oh, okay.
Which again, nothing has changed. We have not done any made any progress in terms of rewarding the current landscape of competitive athletes in the field. We've just taken spots away from North America and Europe and given them right back.
Can you scoot back over, Souza, back over to the east so we'll start over there, and then do you see that same thing that you were saying about the ladies, JR? When you look at North America East, you're like, yep. those 6 are for sure going. And then you look at North America West, same thing. God, the men are more competitive in both regions, huh?
This, like, so I mean, just a big picture thing to keep in mind is, while I feel very strongly that the European women have been slighted in terms of games representation going back at least as far as 2015 and are still being slighted in that regard, I've always also thought that despite having the most spots, the North American men are still the dominant region, and they're still going to have, I mean, no matter what happens here, like there are going to be guys that don't make the games this year that you're like, wow, I thought for sure that was a games athlete in North America for the men.
And one of the guys in the green.
Well, I mean, look, the guys in the green, I think there are men in the green that are just as good as men in the blue.
For sure.
It's just the men in the blue were at the games last year.
Where did Vigneault finish?
Mid-20s last year in the games.
No, I mean this year in the quarterfinals.
Right now he's like
50s maybe.
Yeah, like 50. He's just barely sneaking in.
Wow. What happened to him? Do you know?
JR, do you remember? I mean, there's been so many crazy situations. I'm having a hard time keeping them all straight. But
Did he have a judging error?
I'm not sure. I think at one point he got penalized for test 1, and then it looked like maybe he won an appeal, or he got some of the reps credited back, because I know at one time it looked like he had a score that was just reps, and then when you went back to look, it looked like he had a time.
What any issues coming out of the HWPO camp? Any issues with Mal or Hopper or anyone coming out of there?
Well, just to say this about Vigneault before we move to HWPO. His performances in the quarterfinals are in his region: 9th place, 5th place, 24th place, 30th place. You might be wondering, how the hell is he 56th? Because in the strict handstand push-up workout, he was 531st in that region. 531st. Everything else was 30th or better. 2 places in the top 10. He's still extremely fit. That's a weakness of his, and it was exposed in the deepest field of all of these competitive regions by far.
By far, men and women.
I believe that the 100th place man in North America East has the equivalent performances in quarterfinals to the 60th place man in North America West. So while at the top, when you look at just the guys in blue and green, you say these are pretty well balanced. Once you get beyond that, there's about 80 guys in North America that are just as good as 40 guys in North America East as in North America West. Twice as many guys that are just as good.
JR, you agree?
100%.
That's fact. You could go look at the leaderboards, and it's pretty close to 100 is equal to 60 East to West.
We're
going to get to
Mendoza,
that later on as well.
I am not an AI. I was trying to understand how you thought Victoria Campos looked like China Cho. Well, that's something an AI would say for sure. I know. I'm trying to figure out how I thought that too. Is this Victoria Campos? Let me find a picture where it looks like China Cho. Nope, not that one. Maybe, kind of. Let me see that one with her on the runner. Let me see one of her from the back. I don't know. I was watching the Mayhem. I was watching the Mayhem video, and I was just like, "Oh shit, China Cho's training there." And then I looked up again, and I'm like, "That's not China Cho." What about that one
with the swim cap on and no hair? Because obviously she's got different hair.
Yeah, I mean she's thicker than China for sure, but that's why I said China V2. She's the Brazilian.
You know, it could be Milcelli. Maybe she's got some Italian blood. Milcelli.
This girl that looks like Halle Berry.
Yeah.
Sevan Mendoza. Colombian.
The last name probably indicates that, but the first name you never know. Maybe she's got Italian and Colombian parents.
How good is Campos? Before we go back to the dudes, can she be? Is she still getting better? Is she like a top 10, or she knows she's just going to make her mark and then fade off into the wind?
Not sure. I think that this year will go a long way in terms of us answering that question. You know, she's got to get back there. I don't think it's going to be the easiest. I do think that there are, for those top 4 women are all going to be fairly competitive at semifinals. My gut is telling me she's the fittest woman in South America right now, and that she'll probably finish in the mid-20s at the games.
Oh, okay. Okay. Is that better than she did last year?
I think she was in the 30s last year.
Oh, what did I guess she was? Jethro is saying she's Dominican. What did I say? That's what I said.
You said Colombia.
You said
Yeah,
Colombiana.
exactly. Same thing. Dominicans are Colombian stuck on an island. It's the exact
Topless
same.
was 33 last year. I could see her making like a similar jump to what Sung Young Choi did. Low to mid 30s, moving up to like mid to high 20s.
Okay.
If she gets back.
All right, back to the boys. Enough of this Victoria Campos butting into the boys. How did Justin end up doing in the quarterfinals?
You did okay.
He did good. Did
Best
he win?
in the world.
He did do best in the world.
I mean, things are. He was last time I looked.
Oh!
Still
Before we
is.
go to Justin, sorry. Any problems out of HWPO, or we don't hear any of that fucking nonsense, griping, complaining, feet together, via bitching from those guys. They're professionals.
I really haven't. I haven't heard anyone. No one has DM'd me. No one has reached out to me and said, "Hey, have you seen Mal's this or Hopper's that or any of their athletes?" Actually, so I don't think so.
JR, you heard anything?
No, Jason texted me today. He said they're like full on semifinals training already.
Good to go. Awesome. All right. Yeah, because I didn't hear any noise coming out of there, but there does seem to be a lot of noise. Anyone worth noting who was supposed to go, but because of penalties didn't go, either men or women?
Into the next round.
Yeah, into the semifinals. Anyone get?
If you
we're
scroll,
waiting on James Newberry, right?
I think James is in right now.
He is,
Yeah,
even with a section of his video missing.
yeah. I have
Awesome.
him. You see him there on the list in green.
Okay.
Instead of being third, he was like 23rd or 26th or something like that, but he was inside the top 30.
Are you guys happy with that call? I watched his video with Wiki today.
Oh yeah, I haven't watched it yet. What happened?
And basically his he got a notification saying you got to close your apps, and just like the rest of us, he thought it was saying something else. He thought it was put it in airplane mode, so he didn't read the whole thing and he swiped it away. And then in the middle of his workout, his shit turned off for a couple minutes.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of athletes, Marissa Flowers and James Newberry, both had these apparent problems with the WOD-proof app.
James took full responsibility. He didn't blame the app. He said it was his shit.
And that's, but the first instinct of anyone is going to be, oh my, the WOD-proof app didn't work. I mean, that's just human nature. You want to do that. Right. Well, I'm a WOD-proof sponsored athlete, so obviously I know the people who work there. So I reached out to him and said, hey, this happened to a couple of people. Any ideas why it might have happened? And instantly he knew that there was probably one of two things, or three things. It either wasn't in airplane mode, they had too many apps open, or they got a call from someone who was calling them using Wi-Fi during their workout. And any of those three things could potentially cause these kind of glitches. We were able to put the athletes in touch with WOD-proof. WOD-proof has a system where they can track the workouts using QR code that's specified to every single workout. And so they were able to go in on the back end and look and see what happened. And then they were able to communicate with CrossFit, and CrossFit revisited the issue and distributed penalties different than the original ones.
And
so
I don't know when that Wiki video came out, but Newberry said he was still waiting to hear back from him, like a final word. Do you know when that video came out, Souza? It's a video with it's in that link. Someone sent it in that link, in that video, in that link that we're all in that text thread. I don't know if it's how old that is, if it's a day or two, or if it's just hours. Tyler Thompson, $1.99. I'm 60s on the Northeast leaderboard. 0 videos reviewed. How would he know if his shit's been reviewed or not?
Do you know this, JR?
Sorry to interrupt. The video was posted 23 hours ago.
Okay.
On the what happened to James Newberry on Wikis.
Okay.
I'm sure there's a way you can go into YouTube and find out all this information. Hiller would probably be a good person to ask, but I would assume the only way you would know is if he posted the videos private and that he has 0 views.
Okay. Or he had 2 views because him and his mom watched it.
Sure.
And then no more. What about these posts we're seeing on Instagram where people are saying that they're getting ding points, but they can tell no one's reviewed their video?
Well, there's as far as I can tell, there's 2 potential things. If you competed in quarterfinals and you submitted a score, then it can show accepted or pending, or there's like a few different options, and they're like labeled with and color coded. So if you're looking at your scores, your entries, you may be able to tell based on that. Additionally, if you have videos on YouTube, you might be able to see if anyone's watched them, which is, a few people that we know, at least one person that we know of has said, they're giving me penalties, but they haven't watched my videos because it shows I have no views on YouTube. And then lastly, I think there's also the possibility you didn't submit any videos and they haven't asked you for any. And then you would be pretty confident they haven't watched them.
Is there? I didn't hear the option that maybe they just fucked up.
Well, I think that's implied in all of those options.
Right. Are there any? I want to hit on some specific ones. Whatever happened with the Danielle Brandon situation, where she said she was docked points for holding on to the rower at the 20-minute mark, and clearly in the video we can see she wasn't.
Actually, it's completely irrelevant because it says on the scorecard that it's the number of meters showing on your monitor. When it finishes counting, so you can roll through the 20, and then if you're at 680 meters and it rolls to 700 meters, you get 700, not 680.
Okay, so then how did they dock her points for that? Was that ever?
I don't know. I don't know if they did or did not. I'm not sure what the resolution was.
Okay, so we have no resolution. We don't know what Danielle Brandon. We'll ask her that when we talk to her. James Newberry, we think that he's in. What about Bill Leahy? What was the situation there? What ended up happening there?
As far as I can tell, the situation with Bill Leahy was kind of all surrounding workout number 4, where he was getting off the rower early. There was some question about whether he was meeting the standard on the GHDs, and some question of whether he was meeting his standard on the V-ups. I actually don't know for sure what his original score was and what his score shows now, and if there's a possibility that score will continue to change. But Hiller made a video about that workout in particular, and I think that he was riding the line between like pointing out the flaws with Bill while also kind of so I got the words wrong, but there you can see if your workout's been validated or modified. So maybe that guy who doesn't have any of those next to his name. They're just blank, like they haven't looked at them at all.
Yeah, this is really cool. Apparently this is from the app, and this is the way that you can access this. So you can go in and look and see, which ones have a thumbs up, which ones are still pending, which ones have been modified due to a penalty or whatever.
That's pretty cool that CrossFit has that. That's fucking way cool.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, last year, the year before, some people thought they were going to have acceptance emails from all 5 tests. Some only got 1 and still made it to semifinals. Some got 2, some got 3. I mean, it was like, who knows?
Tyler Thompson says, on my app, I can tell nothing's been viewed. It only says submitted. My 2 views are from my coach and Sevan's mom. Fair enough. So going back to the Leahy thing, we don't know what happened, but either way, he got in.
Well, we don't know that. I mean, like I said, there's still 3 days left for the competition window. So there's certainly the chance that he could still receive a penalty. And that's obviously the case for lots of athletes.
There was a post that someone made, and it said, "Hey," it was going off of Halpin's article that Mike Halpin wrote that you can find in Barbell Spin, that was saying there's 3,298 adjustments so far to maybe it was even a specific workout
in total.
I'm sure that's changed since the
that was like a day ago, I think.
And a guy did the math for that, and he's like, "Hey, dude, that's fucking impossible. That would require, whatever, so many people to watch videos 500 hours a day or something." When you look at that, do you think that what do you think's going on? Do you think that they're really reviewing all the videos that they're? Did you have any idea what that looks like behind the scenes, behind the curtain over there at CrossFit HQ? How many people they have doing it? And this guy went on to say that, hey, they reviewed my video, but I can tell that it hasn't been viewed.
Yeah, so this was actually his coach that posted this message. I just sent it back to the group for Susan to pull it up if he can. But you got them saying, we've given out over 3,000 penalties, and the guy basically does the math and says, That's 500 hours of time just saying that each video they watch for 10 minutes. And for 5 days, I mean, that would be 20 plus days worth of video reviewing that supposedly that they've done in 5 days. So are they just targeting specific movements? Are they targeting specific things in each workout? Like on the row GHD V-up workout, are they just saying, hey, the V-ups are a cause for concern in this workout? This is what we really want to make sure the standard's being upheld on. So make sure that they do their measurements. And when they start the workout, we don't need to watch them row for 3.5 minutes. Go to the V-ups. Look at the first set of V-ups. If you think you need to look further, watch the next set. If you see all you need to see on the first one and they don't do any of their reps correctly, give them a major penalty. You know, we don't know that. But in Frank's case, this guy's athlete, he made this really long post saying, you know, it says I have no views on my video, but yet my video has been reviewed and I've got assessed a major penalty. So
and by major, he means his score has been adjusted by 14% or more.
Yeah, I think he got a 15%, but he's fallen well out of qualifying now. And I think on his post you could go to it. Frank Mestriati, I believe is his name. We can pull it up, but you can look through all the slides and how he kind of lays it out there with, hey, this is what I did. I asked for what reps were in question. When I reviewed it myself, it looked like these reps were in question. Can you give me more information? And looks like to no avail.
Let me ask one more question. Did you want to say something about that, Brian, before I ask a follow-up question on that?
No.
There are two kinds of penalties being given, right? There's this one kind of penalty that's just, hey, we're going to dock you 15%, like the Danny Spiegel grip situation, right? It's just like a 15% penalty. And then there's other penalties that like where they take the rep in question, take the average length it took you to do that rep, and then times it by 2. So if it's a wall ball and it normally takes you 1.5 seconds, they give you a 3-second penalty. Is that correct?
Yeah,
I mean, two different kinds of penalties.
This year they have, and I don't know for sure. Maybe someone does know if this was the case last year or not. But they have specifically listed out things you can be penalized for and things that your video can potentially be invalidated for. It's not an inclusive or all-encompassing list. It feels like there's some things that aren't on those lists that people are also getting penalized for or can get penalized for. But you know, there's some things that are going on in terms of the review process that are quite confusing to me. Like, you know, if you're doing deadlifts with the grips on, does that even count as a rep? Like, should your workout just be over at that point? If you're doing handstand push-ups,
what's the definition?
If you're doing handstand push-ups 12 inches from the wall instead of 10 inches from the wall, do those count as reps?
Right.
I don't know. And then in some cases, they're getting basically penalized 70 reps for 50 V-ups, of which maybe 30 of them were no reps. And they're just assigning a major penalty to the workout instead of, I mean, it's like, okay, so even if every single one of if all my V-ups were not a rep, I should either be given no credit for those 50 workout reps, or my workout should just be over by the time I got to the first workout and didn't do a single V-up to the standard. Because right now, what's happening with the assessment of the 15% penalty is you're encouraging bad behavior. You're encouraging people to just do it quickly, submit it, knowing that as long as I don't do anything to get invalidated, then I'll just get a 15% penalty. And the faster my time is, the less 15% is. And I'll probably still have a competitive score. I mean, obviously, hopefully they won't give me anything. But if they do, they're not going to just say like, whoa. Those weren't ring muscle ups. And stop and give me the score of everything up to ring muscle up. They just say major penalty, add a minute to his score, next. And now you're encouraging athletes to ride the line even more, to cheat even more, to knowing that they're going to get away with it. I mean, there are athletes that did net 0 handstand push-ups at 10 inches. They were further away from that, and they're just given major penalty and move on. And they had pretty fast times doing that, so it's not a big deal. They're still making it to semifinals. They're still towards top of leaderboards.
Do you think any of them, this is off subject a little bit, I know it's speculation. Do you think any of them are doing it on purpose? I can't imagine. Like to use Danny Spiegel as the example, I can't imagine in a million years that someone would, like, she probably is like, fuck, why'd I do that?
I don't know. I mean, people have already said it. It's like, You're a seasoned veteran in the sport. You're training at one of the most prestigious affiliates in the history of the sport. You have great coaches there. There's other competitive athletes there. There's media teams there. There's judges that you've brought in to judge this thing. And all of those people just were like, yep, it's good. I mean,
what gym was she at? What gym was she at?
Did you do it in Invictus?
Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, I have 3 people.
I mean, that's about as OG as you get. I mean, that's the highest caliber in the.
I got 3 people that are averaging 3,000th place worldwide in quarterfinals doing the gym over here. And they're like, hey, can I use the grips on the deadlifts? And I say, no. You got 50 competitors doing this competition, like legitimate judges, coaches that are paid to coach the top athletes in the sport, the biggest media personalities in the space there. And you think like, I cannot even imagine how could you do, you can't do it on accident. It can't possibly be an accident.
Interesting. Wow. That's very, very interesting. Let me throw in one more wrench in there, but she does not have a coach and she is one of the biggest names in the sport. And so maybe people, I mean, look, we're 100%.
You know what I was thinking?
Are you 100% certain that they didn't put the weights wrong at the 23.1?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
They were wrong. The weights are wrong.
But there were some fucking really competent people there.
Yeah.
And we're 100% certain they didn't do it on purpose. And so I'm thinking you have Danny Spiegel there. She's super high profile. People are in awe by how fucking small her shirt is and that it stays on her. And instead of fucking talking to her about the grips, they're like, holy shit.
I think people haven't actually cued in on the real problem.
Okay, go ahead.
As good as she is, she's just not that strong. So she needed those grips to do the deadlifts.
Right. Yes. Hey, those didn't help her, did they? Don't they just make the bar? Those couldn't have helped her either. Don't those just make the bar thicker and more difficult to grab? No, they do help.
Yeah, it just decreases the actual tension in the hands, and it just puts it all on the wrist. So
so it almost feels like a strap.
Yeah,
because she didn't wrap it, did she?
No, she just did probably like an over under mixed grip, and like similarly to on a pull-up bar. Get that
tension there.
Yeah, similarly to on a pull-up bar, if you use the grip a certain way, you can just put all the tension on your wrist, and you can just hang on by a couple fingers.
Jeff Gassick, $10. Real name, Jeff Gassick. Gassick. These recaps are priceless for those of us who don't have the time to monitor social media and the internet, who have real lives and aren't fucking losers like the rest of you. Sevan, Matt, Brian, and JR, and family. Thank you. I'm looking forward to Danielle Brandon tomorrow too, but don't tell anyone. Shh. Looking forward to Danielle Brandon always. Thank you.
Jeff is a good dude.
Yeah, I like money. Thank you. Trish is in the house. Jeff, don't hold your breath. Okay, Trish, calm down. Chill out, buddy. Chill out, Trish. Don't ruin it for the new people here. Julian Ifford with the hamburger fries and condiment that is high fructose corn syrup, often mistaken as ketchup. Should Mal be given a penalty for what? No, she's the queen. What's he talking about?
I'm not sure.
Okay. This is interesting. I hope I didn't pick the wrong one. It's still my set. I sincerely apologize and own the dumpster fire created. 2, clean house. 3, make the changes required. Otherwise, it's obvious they subscribe to the bad publicity is still publicity. Oh, well, I will say this. The publicity has been awesome for them. I think the last 2 years have been on fire. Obviously, that's self-serving as a mofo. But what about this thing that Katie Gannon posted on the barbell spin? Hey guys, you guys complain that HQ's not doing anything, and now they're giving out penalties, and you're still complaining? Like, come on, you can't have it both ways. Do you want them to be sticklers or not? That's what she's kind of saying, right?
Yeah, and I think the conversation here is specifically about what movements are being so heavily scrutinized. And we can pull up the clip from Pat's interview where he kind of dives right in to the V-ups and how he kind of foresaw a lot of issues happening there. And for the people that I know personally and the people that I see on the leaderboard dropping off, it's most of them have been because of that movement. Obviously, we know it's a new movement. I think a lot of people would argue it's a movement that we never really thought would make its way into a competition because of things like standards. And I think something to think about when you look at the V-up and you look at what the standards were, a lot of us agree that they could have been written differently, maybe a little bit more clearly. But you can't argue this. This movement, to me, is like one of the biggest turning points in the sport, possibly. Because for the first time, you're being judged on how you get from point A to point B, not just if you got from point A to point B. So
you're going to have to explain. Okay,
I
go
will.
ahead.
So if you think about something like a deadlift, and we can just use the toes to bar probably because it's a little bit, it's similar to a V.
Listen, if you don't subscribe to the station, this is premium content. Get the fuck out of here. What you're about to hear is premium. This is only for subscribers and people who have liked the show. Your time is up.
So when you do a toes to bar, you have to start from a hanging position with feet off the ground. Your feet have to pass behind you, basically breaking the imaginary plane. And then both feet have to touch the bar in between your hands. That's when the rep is credited. There's nothing in the standards, and there never has been, about how your feet need to look on the way from your arch to your hollow position to when your feet hit the bar. Your feet don't have to stay together. Your knees can bend. They cannot bend. You can run and jump from 5 feet away and get the biggest swing of your life, like a little kid on a monkey bar, just to get your feet high enough to hit, and it counts. On a deadlift, it doesn't matter if your back rounds and it looks like it's going to break. If the bar starts on the floor and it ends with hips and knees extended with shoulders behind the bar, the rep is counted. But now you are judged not only by do your feet and hands start on the floor and then do your hands touch your feet at the top. It's no. On the way up, though, if your knees are ever higher than your toes, the rep doesn't count. Your knees can bend slightly as long as your feet remain together, or in this case, touching in contact.
No, not touching. It never says touching anywhere in the standards.
Yeah, it doesn't, but that's what the intent was, right? So again, it's if people thought that things like push-ups, ring rows, anything strict muscle-ups, which is one of the only times you can say that the way you got from point A to point B really mattered. If people don't think movements like that could come up, they're crazy. Because I think
Now
this is like this is a new era. This is a new era of no. I think the priority should be similarly to like it's in the affiliates, mechanics, consistency, intensity. So not only do I want you to do this fast, but I want you to do it fast correctly. We saw that in the wall facing handstand push-ups. That's just another way to see that you're moving better and see that you're moving properly. So I think that it's like it sets a precedent that we've never seen before as far as what could possibly be tested.
Good or bad? You like this or no? Yes or no? Do you have an opinion on it? Have you formed an opinion on it?
Are you asking JR?
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, either.
It's contrary to what is being preached in the judges course. And so I find that problematic. In the judges course, it specifically states and also highlights via some of the questions that they ask that it is not the judge's job to judge how the movements is done. You're not there to be critiquing their form. It's just, did they meet the objective?
And I think a lot of people would argue that if my feet weren't touching and they were separated by 3 inches, did I gain anything from that? Juxtaposed to a toes to bar. If my feet were together and I was nice and hollow and it was like I hinged at the hip and there was no bend at all in my knees, did that give me an advantage over having my feet go as wide as they possibly could and my knees bending and coming up to my chest? Like it's a similar. People will make that argument similarly. Like what did I gain from my legs not being together the whole time? What did I gain from blah, blah, blah?
I mean, you did a really good job. Let me throw 2 movements in there and have you guys talk about them real quick. The burpee. It's just basically touch your chest to the ground and then you got to jump, right? Doesn't matter how the fuck you do it. It's just the 2 points, right? Doesn't matter if you jump up, you bring one leg up. Say, was it chest and thighs?
Yeah.
It didn't matter But at one time it did matter. So when people started stepping up, this is very similar. Dave one year just said, hey, you know that step up burpee that you do? Can't do that anymore. Got to jump your feet to your hands. And then what did everyone do? They went, what do you mean? What do you mean I can't do that anymore? I've been doing them that way for a year. And then everyone said, okay, well, I guess I got to figure out how to do it this way again. It's a similar comparison there, that it's not just chest and thighs touch the ground and get up however you want. What if he makes a rule that the feet can never come outside the width of the hands? So people that jump their feet up wide when they do burpees can't do that anymore. And you have to jump basically up with your knees into your chest.
So would that be the same as what they're doing now with this V-up? Let me give you one more example. What about that year that when you had to jump over the box, you had to keep your body inside the dimensions of the box? Was that last year?
In some heats.
Correct.
Is it really that unique, the V-up, what you were describing? I want to push back on it and prove you wrong. Is it really that unique?
Well, I mean, I just think that it's the way that the standard was written and the way that the judges were supposed to enforce it was really, really like, it was really mind-blowing to me, because it was like, wait a minute, they have to judge the quality of this movement, not just was the movement a rep or not.
Like going back to the burpee. Your body has to be flat on the ground, thighs and titties, and then you got to be up and your feet have to be up.
Yeah, so if you change the standard so it said that your thighs and burpees must touch the ground at the same time and come off the ground at the same time, now you have a totally different thing that you're judging.
Right.
Because all those people that worm their way down and worm their way off the burpee, suddenly that's no longer good.
Yeah, and I mean, people will argue things like a push-up. Well, we've seen the push-up like one of the first years of the games when they did the hand release push-ups and they had to get up and over the wall. They did that, and they did push-ups in Murph. But when have they ever really done push-ups? And people will just say, oh yeah, they never do push-ups because they're so hard to judge. Ring dips are hard to judge, blah, blah, blah. Well, if he can say that your body has to stay in a certain shape when you're doing a V-up, who's to say that the judges aren't going to be prepared to judge a rigid body line? Like, hey, if your body line deviates from being rigid, you get no rep. Like, I mean, it's not any different.
Go ahead. Were you going to say something, Brian?
Yeah, no, I think this is a very relevant to the conversation. And it's something that I first remember specifically talking about after the 2000.
Are those good? Are those good?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
You tell me if his feet are together or not.
Oh, I couldn't tell from that angle. How could I tell?
What do you mean? They're coming off the ground together. That one didn't. Those ones are. They're touching the feet are touching the hands together. Are they together?
I can't tell from this angle.
Well, what does it mean if they're together?
Okay, good point.
Sevan and his kids walked into the store together. Were they touching?
Yeah, this angle would be impossible to judge.
Well, this is the angle that they wanted. They wanted this angle or a 3/4, but in the picture, they show this angle. They show a profile view. Like, I made my athletes face this way.
Well, how would you be able to tell if their heels are touching, if their feet are together? From this
Doesn't
angle?
matter if they're touching. It never says anything about touching in the standards. They have to be together. What does it mean to be together?
I assume that means your heels have to be touching.
Okay, so answer my question. Sevan and Avi walked into the store together. Were they touching?
No.
Well, how do you know they weren't touching? They were together.
Just from
You said
experience.
together
Just
means
from
touching.
experience. I'm yelling at him because he's outside
You
looking
just
for
told me
pennies.
together means touching.
Right.
So they
Right.
walked into the store together. They were obviously touching.
Right. Yeah, I guess it's context.
And I think I was one of the people that
terrible decision of how to write the standard, especially when you're administering this test to an international population of 20,000 people.
Hey, is that true that 5% of how many that 5% of the people got penalties, but they couldn't have possibly have reviewed. I'm guessing they didn't even review 5% of the fucking scores.
It's hard to know.
That would be
It's hard to
1,000
know
people
what's
they
going
reviewed.
on with the
5%
review.
of 20,000 is 1,000, right?
it's hard to know what's going on with the review, but I do want to say this to JR's point. After the second cut workout of the 2019 CrossFit Games is the first time that I had this thought in my mind. They introduced the double kettlebell shoulder to overhead for 66 reps in a workout that had rowing and handstand walking, where you had to get across a certain line. There's not very much that you have to judge on the rowing. The handstand walk is extremely obvious whether you made it or not. And yet now you have these 66 reps in the middle of the workout with a brand new movement for the games and a brand new standard. That standard was new for the athletes and the judges. And you can just go watch one heat of any heat you want, pick any 3 lanes next to each other, and you'll see the standard being administered differently by the judges because they also just learned it.
Right.
If you're going to do something like this, you must at least educate one of the 2 populations. If not the athletes, then educate the judges. I know for a fact that the review team that's reviewing these videos worldwide are not seeing the same thing and correcting the same thing when it comes to the VIA. That there are some cases where certain people are watching it and flagging it, and some cases where there's certain people watching the same thing and not flagging it. And I don't blame the review people for that. I blame the administrators and organizers of this test for not preparing their team for what was about to come. I think that it was also irresponsible not to prepare the athletes for what was about to come. If you're telling us that you're going to release an equipment list and jump ropes is supposed to be your clue that you need a beaded jump rope to have the most efficient execution of one of the tests, then you should be fired from your job. If you're telling me that you're going to provide an equipment list and then you're going to have a workout that pops up several months later that has a standard we've never seen, a movement we've never seen, an advantage for a certain equipment that you may or may not have and may or may not be able to get, and you have 24 hours to do it, and you're expecting your judging team to judge 15,000 videos that have that movement in it, you're setting yourself up for failure, which is the exact thing that I've been begging you to not do for over a year now. Make decisions that are easy on yourself. You want to do a V-up in competition, put it in the semifinals where you have control of the judging, where you have head judges that can say, hey, you're doing that wrong. You're doing that wrong. Where you can take all the judges and show them beforehand, we're going to accept this and not this. You want to have a crossover there? Put it in the semifinals. Give all the athletes in the semifinals a beaded rope to use and say, hey, now you don't even have to say it. Now everyone knows, oh, those are in the semifinals. They're trickling their way down. Probably if I want to be competitive in the sport, I should get a beaded rope. Because 5 men and 5 women had to do double under crossovers at the games is not an indication that everyone in the world should go that has a chance to compete in quarterfinals should go buy a beaded jump rope.
I don't agree with you there, but I do agree with the first part that I think is more relevant. That if you're going to have equipment lists, you better have the fucking beaded jump rope on there. And I apologize to the people in Africa and Asia for my presupposition, and to you, Colton Mertens. But I'm going to assume that if you live in Africa or where Colton lives, or in Asia in some places, that it is fucking more difficult to get this equipment than in the United States. And when it is supposed to be truly an international event, it is truly a fuck up not to tell people ahead of time. You're basically saying fuck you to them. You don't matter. Because there are places in the United States where you can go on Amazon and you can have a beaded rope delivered to your house in 3 hours. And there's other people where it take you 2 weeks to get it, if you can get it at all. So I agree with Brian. It's fucking asinine. I want to say this on top of what Brian was saying. I watched the Training Think Tank video with Max El Haj and the Darren guy who looks like Ken from the Barbie set. They had judges come in. He didn't say they hired them. He was careful with his wording, but they had judges come in who were Wodapalooza and games level judges with a minimum of 3 years of high level judging experience. They brought in 6 of them. They had extensive meetings with the judges and the athletes, and they still had a lot of significant issues. And at some point, it'd be cool to get Max on here and Ken and talk to them and pick their brains and find out.
And so you have two different things that are going on now. You have a population of athletes who's realizing, man, I can't let anything come down to chance. Like, I got to take this super seriously. There's some new stuff here. There's some standards we've never seen, some movements we've never been tested on. I'm going to go above and beyond to make sure that I do this right. And if you do that and you still get penalties, that can be extremely frustrating, especially when you're leveraging that against the other group of people who are maybe taking advantage of this 15% penalty thing and saying, well, I'm going to ride the line, and if I get a major penalty, at least I've gone really fast. It'll only be 15%. I'll probably still be good enough to get it.
Julian Ifford, Mal stepped out of the camera view and wasn't given a penalty. Pull up Hiller's IG post. Thanks, Julian Ifford. We'll do that right now. CrossFit Corey, actually, when you step out of frame, your video is supposed to be invalidated, but they will just give a penalty because it's Mal. I don't know if you can say that, but
Well, I mean, we have these examples of these WOD-proof situations where they didn't step out of frame, but all of a sudden the video freezes and you can't see what's happening for a period of time. And so, is that grounds for an invalidated video? I don't know. In the case of Marissa Flowers, for example, she'd already done 10 and a half minutes of the workout. When that pause, it's only a 12-minute AMRAP. So they
Newberry too, same thing, right?
Yeah. So they gave her credit of what they could see. So I mean, I guess in like it's possible, but that's the point.
Let me ask you this though. Once again, Brian, how the fuck, right? You convinced me now that the thing with Danny Spiegel is weird as shit. How the fuck does Mal O'Brien? No one's going to argue the heir to the fucking throne, the next fucking Matt Fraser, Rich Froning, and Tia. How does she step out? What?
We'll see.
How does she step out of the camera? How does that happen? Cozy Ghost. In Mal's video, she left the picture frame, potentially a penalty, yes, but Mal's a legit beast. Okay, the argument begins. Let's use common sense. I don't know what the fuck that means in this day and age. Brian set that up in the beginning. Put the pieces together when you watch it. No penalty. The ghost has spoken.
Would we really be happy if they had validated her video and she didn't compete in the season?
I'd be fucking pissed. But who cares what I think? I was pissed when Sam Briggs didn't get to compete. I'm pissed that fucking Rich Froning didn't compete. I'm pissed that Matt Fraser fucking tucked his tail between his legs and hit the road. I'm happy that Tia fucking got smashed with the baby batter, but at least she got a real reason. Okay, look at, yeah. I don't know how that happens, dude. I don't know how you let that happen. Hey, to me, that's more significant than the grip. Moving out of frame, the athlete must remain in the frame for the duration of the event. Additionally, the clock submissions will be invalidated. Wow, that's wow.
Well, and I mean, this is actually, to me, what's surprising, the most surprising thing about this is that these two videos that they've posted here, you obviously have Mal O'Brien violating one of the written rules of competition, and you're proclaiming this as a world record. And then you have Victor Hoffer's video, his time on that workout is absolutely insane. I have seen dozens and dozens of videos of athletes doing front squats who've been penalized that look very similar to his front squats on the first set. And so it's just like this gray area of what counts as an extension of the hip at the top of the front squat or not. And you're celebrating someone whose front squats look really similar to a lot of other athletes who you're penalizing for a very, very similar, if not exactly the same quality of movement. And that inconsistency, more than anything, is what I think is frustrating to people.
Let me ask you big picture real quick. Why do we care about any of this? Besides the fact that it's fun getting clicks and views, and because it's relevant, and because we're watching it, and we put time and energy into it, and it's like,
I think that we care about it because we know that there are a big group of people who spend their entire year preparing for this, and then pay money to participate in it with the expectation that they're going to get at the very least a consistent, administration of the test. A fair administration of the test.
So there's thousands of 22-year-old men and women out there who, in their mind, their story in their head is that they've put their life on hold, which is just crazy. Don't think like that, but bear with me here for this narrative. Let me erase that. Take two. There's thousands of 22-year-old men and women out there who are putting every last bit of effort into this. Every cent, every part of their life, they've this is what they want to do, and they're giving it their best. And therefore, even though it's not a life or death situation at hand, they deserve the best in terms of the event they're participating in.
Yeah,
equal commitment at minimum. Equal commitment at minimum, right? It would be like a Daytona 500 not having adequate medical staff. when every year someone dies in the race.
And I think that it is foolish of them to have that expectation based on what we've seen historically. If you're signing, what?
I was going to say you didn't like that metaphor, JR. I saw you look up, I saw your eyes look up into space.
I was processing it.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Brian. Sorry to interrupt.
No, look, we have known this about the Open forever, and we know it, and now we know it about the quarterfinals. It's impossible for them to review everything that they need to do. It's impossible for them to have a consistent and fair application of these things across the board. And so if you're signing up for this competition, regardless of what you've invested, you have to know that there's a chance that you're going to get what you perceive to be and what very well might be an unfair application of the rules, an inconsistent application of the rules. It happens every year, and it has been for a long time. And it's not saying that that's a good thing, but I'm saying that is a thing. And if you're blind or negligent, or you're refusing to accept that as a thing, that's on you, or on your coaches, or on your team, and you haven't been paying attention. Obviously, we would hope that would not be the case, and we would hope that we would be moving in the right direction. But what we see is that a lot of the same problems pop up year after year. And this year, there's been, in my opinion, and I think JR would agree, there's been some new problems added to the equation.
Meaning the V-ups.
Meaning the choice of movements, the choice of how to introduce them, and the standards with which they're expected to be upheld.
Miss Pugface, $9.99 for premium content. And with that $9.99, you will also get an evaluation of your profile picture, which is very dark. And I think that you can, if you're committed to that profile picture.
Dude, I think she's on a stripper pole. And I tried to talk a little quieter. Sorry, last time I came on, I guess I came in hot. People were saying my volume was too up.
Hi, Caleb.
Is she? Does that look like she's on a stripper pole? I don't know.
I thought maybe she's doing a backbend or something, but whatever. But if you're committed to that picture, I would say that you import it into Photoshop and then just work with the shadows. If not, just use a different picture. That's free. That you get that premium content and free work on your Zach. We call him Zach. We just call him Zach because he says his last name wrong, and I don't want to offend him. I literally just posted a video of me training and staunchly defending CS less than a week ago. Defending what?
I think there are some conversations going on in the comments that would give that more context.
All right, let me get through these.
I think to add to Brian's point, one of the other topics is what is the test for primarily? What is it for secondary? Who should it be administered to primarily, and who should it be administered to secondarily? So the way I view quarterfinals is maybe a little bit more harshly, but I think that every stage is just a screening process for the next stage. And I think it should be that way through the whole season, especially from quarterfinals to semifinals and semifinals to the game. So if you take the games events and you know what they're going to be, and you want to make sure that the people that get there are going to be able to handle what's asked of them at the games, then you make sure that you conduct a semifinal in a way that, and I mean, Adrian's a super smart guy. If you know you're going to do legless pegboards right at the games, you need to make sure that you have a dense legless rope climb workout at semis. And last year they did that. If you know that you're going to have them do a 405 deadlifts for reps, make sure that there's a heavy hinge in the semifinal to make sure that people aren't going to get there and not be able to do something like a 455 deadlift or something like that. So I think that using it as a screening process is the most important thing. You need to make sure you get the right people to semifinals. And there's always going to be plus or minus 5 people who, maybe it came down to the test. Maybe it came down to the online reviewer that they had, or, whatever. Maybe they got a penalty. Maybe they didn't. But a lot of people argue and just say, I'm the fittest in my gym and I made quarterfinals, but I couldn't do any of the workouts because it started out with a 225 front squat and I only thrustered 220 pounds in the open, or I only got 2 strict handstand push-ups in the snatch workout in the open, and I couldn't even get to the 21 handstand push-ups because I couldn't even do any ring muscle ups in that workout. But I mean, I still kind of think it's a hey, you made it, but just because you made the top 10% doesn't mean that you should just be given a bye to just do all 5 tests. A lot of people would disagree with me, but I think what's more important is, well, who is it really supposed to be for? Is it supposed to be for the people that are in contention to qualify for the next stage, or is it supposed to be another level of showcasing the athletes, all the athletes?
And
somebody got cold feet. Hey, so how many would you say go? Basically what you're saying is don't take the full 20,000. Caller, stand by 1 second. Caller, go ahead, Jerry. You're saying that just too many people go. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I would say that if this year's tests to me were the most difficult by far of the 3 years that we've had it, and it's always been 10%. So I would say with these tests, it should be 5% or even less.
I mean, I like that just because it makes the open more important. Brian, can you hold on while we hear from the caller 1 second? Caller, hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey.
Hey.
So I'm one of the 20-year-olds getting one of these massive penalties that you were talking about earlier, who, puts their life on hold for this. And so today I submitted my penalty yesterday, or my appeal, and I got my email back today, and just like the robot, like copy paste denied. But
what was the movement? What was the movement?
For talking about it.
What was the movement?
The VF.
And do you vehemently disagree with them that you were penalized unfairly?
I mean, yeah, like there was during the workout there was no intent. I had no intent of cheating the reps at all. I thought I did them correctly. I still think I did.
Why is she using that word intent? Why are you using that word intent? Who cares what your intention is? Is that? I'm not trying to be a dick to you. I'm trying to figure out what you mean by that. Like, I didn't intend to get my wife pregnant with the twins, but ovulation was.
I can help her out there. I mean, this is one of the problems that CrossFit has brought upon themselves during this quarterfinal review process, because there was a high-profile athlete who was assessed a penalty and then was communicated with after the fact that intent was relevant in the decision-making process while they were evaluating his appeal or the decision. I'm not exactly sure how it worked, but they use that word intent, and that opens up the door for people like her to say, "Oh, I think the intent was pretty clear for me too. How come I'm not getting the same treatment as this well-known athlete?"
And who was that athlete?
Sam Quant.
Oh, wow. Okay, caller? Is that why you're using that word? Because it's the word they used.
I mean, yes, and I also mean it. Like I genuinely thought at the time and now that I did it right.
What do you know what you did that they didn't like?
I know what they're saying that I didn't do right.
And what was that?
So they said my feet weren't together, and then they also said that my feet were below my knees off of the ground.
Which is tricky,
so that means
because
anyone who bend their knees at all, your heels would be below your leg.
Yeah.
Right?
So the tricky part about that is that they have something in the standard that allows for slightly bent legs, but they at the finish of the rep. But what they're penalizing people for is for having slightly bent knees at the beginning of the rep. So you have to. So
when your hand touches, you can be bent a little bit because of your what's it called? Anthera something.
Hamstring flexibility, maybe, or whatever.
Yeah. But so basically, if I like what I've learned now that I didn't understand then is you need to have your legs straight coming off the ground. But if you bend them on the way up, that's okay. That's like.
But it never says that.
Would you have made it? To, how would you have made it to semifinals?
Oh yeah, I would have been 33rd. Now I'm 100 and something.
In what region?
North America East.
I'm sorry. Just out of curiosity, what will you do? Will you pull your shit together and take another stab at it next year? Or are you dissuaded?
Oh no, I'm coming back next year.
All right, good job, girl.
I missed out last year after making it. I'm ready. I'm ready to come back and make a statement.
All right. Thank you for calling. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Bye. Anthony TPA $2. Let's FG let LFG the two best looking guys in CrossFit and JR. Thank you. About time. Best recognize. I saw $19 in here. Let me dig through here real quick. Hold on. Hey, so so you give Mal a pass? Is that what you're saying, Brian?
For what?
For stepping out of the camera. It says they'll be invalidated. It's not. You give her a pass. Let's say you work at HQ.
No.
No.
I would say no. If you wrote that, then you have to say to her, "Hey, this video is not. We're not accepting this video. Do you have another one because you step out of the frame?"
It says that will be invalidated. It doesn't say could be invalidated.
I mean, I'm not. I guess, but either way, you've
So
written
you're
that
right.
in there. You're
Yeah.
reviewing the video. She stepped out of the frame. You have to communicate to her. I don't care who she is, and you're not supposed to care who she is either. Do you have a video where you didn't step out of the frame? Otherwise, we have to invalidate this one.
Get rid of online qualifiers. Problem solved.
Okay, now this is maybe a good time for this last thing that I've had help and prepare for us tonight.
Okay. Do I have you start? I'll be back in 30 seconds.
Sure. It comes on. I mean, Barry's question about online qualifiers is relevant, or suggesting to get rid of them, I suppose. And what JR was talking about earlier is the Open really screening athletes for the quarterfinals, and is the quarterfinals really screening for the semifinals, and are the semifinals screening for the games, which makes sense to pretty much anyone, I would assume, but especially, people like JR and myself, who spend a lot of time thinking about programming. When we look at the Open workouts, we make some assumptions about quarterfinals workouts. When we look at quarterfinals workout, we make some assumptions about what's potentially going to be coming at semifinals, because it only makes sense that you would do that. And so what I asked Mike to do was to look back at the Open from this year, and I asked him to identify how many men and how many women would have qualified for semifinals if the threshold was that you had to be in the top 15% worldwide of athletes who actually submitted scores for the workouts on each of the 4 tests.
Quarterfinals, yeah. Quarterfinals.
Yeah, did I misspeak?
Yeah, you said semis. It's okay.
Yeah. So, okay, to advance from the Open to quarterfinals, what if the barrier to entry was that you must be in the top 15%, not overall, not in the top 10% overall, but the top 15% on each of the workouts? And so he ran a really, really impressive data study, and this is what it yielded. So for the men, those are the prerequisites that you would have had to make it in the top 15%. And as you can see there, you would have needed to do 8 ring muscle ups, 5 rounds plus 18 burpee pull-ups, thruster at least 228 pounds, and you would have had to gotten to the snatches at 185, but not done any of the reps. So those would have been the prerequisites, meaning if you didn't achieve any one of those, you couldn't advance, regardless of how good you did on any of the others. That would have yielded 6,931 potential participants in quarterfinals for men, which is, I think, a reasonable number. And then you can see the breakdown by continent. I have an idea of extrapolating this study into the quarterfinals that also can help do away with the completely useless worldwide ranking and strength of field method that we're currently using to allocate game spots. And it will be based on something like this, where you can actually see the percentage of athletes that are meeting the thresholds that the test maker should be expecting of athletes who are going to take the next stage of the test to have in their arsenal. And if you scroll over to the right, we can see.
Wait, I got to stop you 1 second just to be super clear. You're saying in the Open, you have to be in the top 15% for every workout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is just an idea.
So let's just say I don't mean to comment. You were 3%, 27%. You're out.
You're out because you don't have the requisite skill sets to take the next test.
Yeah, I ain't hating. Okay.
Now, the reason why I don't think for now that Barry's suggestion of taking online qualifiers out altogether is that I do think there are some important aspects of them. I do think that it's important and valuable to have the community participatory event that the Open is. And I do think that it's important for CrossFit to collect revenue from that event. What they do with that revenue is a different conversation that we can potentially have, but it's pretty obvious that the Open plus quarterfinals are making them a significant amount of money, which they can use hopefully to administer the season well and pay out athletes and whatever else. But I think that in this, and then so additionally, what I would do is I would only score those 6,931 men against each other. And then everyone else in the open that didn't make it would be scored against each other. So 6,932 and beyond would be just labeled. They would just be a red line. They're not eligible for quarterfinals, but they did participate in the open. They finished below everyone who is eligible for quarterfinals because they are good enough at the things that are going to be tested coming up in the season. And everyone still gets a place on the leaderboard. Everyone still gets to do all the tests. You can definitely still design tests like we had this year that have building elements of them and have things like ring muscle ups and strict handstand push-ups and heavy snatches that will be barriers for people. And they need to be, because we're taking 300,000 and condensing it down to a field that then we wanted to advance down to only 300 or 600 total people. So
do you know why this translates great for the community too? Maybe you said this already, but because then you can know I'm the 53rd percent fittest. Like everyone will get a percentage, right?
The other thing is that you're not going to see, I mean, this is for the men, but for example, 143 reps. So Laura Horvath only got 145. I don't think she's going to be taking that workout so lightly if she knows, well, I better be in the top 15% of everyone taking this, because otherwise my season's over.
Yeah,
you're
I
not
like
gonna,
that.
you're not going to see people having, kind of weird or oddly low scores. You're probably going to see, even though, it doesn't really matter for the rest of the season, you're probably not going to see Justin Medeiros coming in 78th place in the open. He's not going to want to take any chances. He's just going to be like, I better make sure. I don't want to leave anything to chance. It shouldn't be a problem, but you never know.
And for those of you who are worried about outliers or some shit like that, you can always throw away the top 1% and the top and the bottom 1% of the scores. So there's some way to work around that. I love that idea because of so I'd asked earlier, hey, why do we care? And this person says because of the double standards, because it makes or breaks sponsorship earning potential. It's a huge deal to some of these guys. This is all they want. They have a love for the sport. So to see this happen is ridiculous. Also, standards are standards. If they aren't going to be upheld, this is Brian. This is a strong thing that Brian says, and I believe too. Why even have them? It's a slippery slope if you start letting this few slide here and there.
I would just add on to the end of that, because there was this, Dave Kessler reposted on his own Instagram. Someone had said, this is a picture of Dave reminding people that the standard is the standard. But, if you're going to write the standard, you better make sure it's a good one, especially if it's something that no one's ever seen or done before in a competition like this.
Where are we here? The problem with Mal and Victor's video is HQ has posted them as world records. The standard to meet, with Victor not doing front squats to standard and Mal walking off camera. Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
But if we're being super honest here, we should not be surprised that that CrossFit is putting out things that are not to standard themselves, because that's become a pattern that they've demonstrated regularly over the last year.
That's fucking nuts. That's fucking nuts. Zach, Sevan, let me come to chat. $4.99. Come chat. Where is he? There's the call. My brother, call. Sarah Cox. Sarah, I watched a few of Zach's videos, and I do think that he would be an excellent candidate for coming down to Newport and checking out California Hormones. How are you on time, JR?
I'm good.
How are you, Mr. Friend, on time?
I'm 20 minutes at most. I'd like to be done.
Okay. I'm scrolling through the comments here to make sure I didn't miss anyone's. Holy shit. Here we go. Spencer Davis, a man falling from the sky. Has there been an explanation why the sport doesn't have instant replay and review for the best athletes in the world at the games and semis?
That's a question for someone like a production person like Brian.
Would it benefit athletes and empower judges? Thanks for premium content. Closing Pornhub account. Oh, good job. Yeah. Porn's totally overrated. You should have never had a Pornhub account.
There are many instances at the games and semifinals where they use replay and review and check cameras to make sure they get things right.
Yeah. Do you want your $23 back since Brian said they do? That's kind of a shitty answer. You know what I mean? Okay. If you guys have a few more minutes, Mr. Souza, do you have Zach's phone number? Maybe send him a link. Zach, you better have fucking good audio. You better not fuck this shit up. Okay.
Can we look at the women's standards? Just don't want to leave them out, just so you can see what would have happened there. I think this actually is a good representation of something else.
Don't feel bad. You're not leaving them out. Everyone just goes cross-eyed when you put this up. They understand what you're saying, but when they see the numbers, they just.
So these would have been the minimum thresholds for the women, and I think that there's there would need to be another element of plan here where you would actually need to say one or the other. So like based on the women that participated here, you wouldn't have actually had to be able to do a ring muscle up still to advance. And obviously that's a problem. Like the way that the quarterfinals test was designed, no one who can't do ring muscle up should be taking that test. And so I would say that in this case, I would have, said it's a 15% threshold or 5 ring muscle ups. And if you don't have at least 5 ring muscle ups, you're not good enough to take the next phase of the test. Now, I'm not saying these tests are perfect. I'm saying based on the tests that we have. Anyway, based on
and the test would change, Brian, based on that, right? If you had some strict guidelines like that, like a 15% threshold, you'd have to be cognizant of that when you made the test.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you don't know where the 15% is going to fall, but I would assume that if you're programming ring muscle ups in the open, and you're also programming ring and bar muscle ups in the quarterfinals, that you're expecting the people who are advancing from semifinal from the open to be able to do muscle ups. And in this example that I have, that's not the case. And in the example that we have from this season, it's way more dramatically not the case at all.
David Johnson, Sevan, tell Brian the 23.1 is off for men and women. Off? What does that mean? That means the legs aren't together. Raw Performance, 499. Thoughts on penalties being reversed so easily? Seems like a lot of penalties were given out Wednesday, then reversed. Takes away the credibility of the judging.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people who have the kind of have the feeling that it's weird that there's just like these rolling and constant changes on the leaderboard, and that they might say like, do your job, review the videos, and when you have all of the videos reviewed, publicize the penalties and show us the updated leaderboard, so we get just one change. And we don't have to check back every day and every hour to wonder, is this athlete going to change? Is that one going to change or whatever? And I empathize with that. And have often at times, I should say, thought that myself. But this thing that is being brought up here is a legitimate thing. Like, the athletes are being notified of these penalties, then they're appealing, and then the penalties are changing. And it does seem to be happening with what I would call an alarming amount of frequency. And is once again just calling into question what that review process is actually like. What we've heard Dave Eubanks say is there's a team of people that look at videos. If they see something, they flag it and it gets passed up the chain. If the next person up the chain sees it and they flag it, then it gets passed up the chain again. And the final set of eyes on it, one of these superiors or executives that are overseeing whatever competitive region that they're overseeing, it will be the one that decides, yep, that person's getting this penalty, and then we'll communicate with them. But when the appeal comes back, is it the same person that's looking at that again, or is it actually going to a different set of eyes? And if it's going to a different set of eyes, and that different set of eyes is then communicating with the athlete, oh, actually, we're going to modify that back to this instead of that, or we're going to erase it altogether. All you're doing now is just leaving a mass amount of confusion. Who's in charge? How do I know that the person that's reviewing my video is actually qualified to do it? Or am I just getting either lucky or unlucky that I have someone who's seeing something one way or seeing something the other way as either person A that's finally making the decision to penalize me, or B that's the one that's reviewing my video after the appeal?
Or both, ideally both. Cozy Ghost, super sticker, $9.99. There was another one here. Stand by. No, I missed it. Danny T, you barely talked about the leaderboard for a leaderboard episode. Yep, that's true. And there'll be another episode for that. So that should be fun, right? we definitely need to talk about the leaderboard. I think we'll talk about that. When do semifinals start?
Well, that's why I want. That's what I mean. That's what this portion of the show where we looked at all the people that are currently,
With the
strong
men didn't get
competitors.
any love. The men got screwed. We didn't even make it over to Africa. It's okay though. Don't get me wrong. There's every show can't be perfect. The show's only a 9.5 out of 10.
And the
Yeah, I mean-
leaderboard is a direct reflection of all of these things that are happening.
It's cool too when the leaderboard is locked because you have those last few spots that people get in, and some of us know those people personally. Some of us know that they have some cool stories, like they've been trying to make it for 3 or 4 years, or they're coming back from an injury, or hey, they barely got in, but this is someone who's amazing at this movement or who's amazing at this lift. And if this kind of thing comes out at a semifinal, watch out for them because they could win an event, things like that. I think when the leaderboard is finalized, it makes people like us a lot more confident to speak about it.
It will be. When do the semifinals start? What's the date?
The first week of semifinals begins on May 18th if you're in North America East, and May 19th if you're in Africa.
Right. Okay. So we're a month away. Did you by any chance see the video that Andrew Hiller made today regarding the problems that they're having over at the adaptive division?
I have not.
You did watch it, JR?
No, I didn't.
Okay. That could be something that we should probably address at some point too. If you think that there's problems over here, basically they're having trouble categorizing these people, and it sounds like tensions are running high in terms of who goes where, right? So there's athletes. It sounds like that there's some tension between Wheelwad. I think that's the big dogs in the space, and CrossFit HQ, and how people are determined and placed into which categories. And it sounds like it's turned into a screaming match, which is kind of a shame. Andrew does say something interesting there, that he would actually not even have an adaptive class because they've taken on more than they can handle. It's not even doable in his mind.
Yeah, I mean, once that last part of that comment once again just goes to this overarching theme, which is we have heard abundantly the directors of the CrossFit Games say, "Hey, we got a small team," and that yet we've seen consistently that they make decisions that compromise their team's ability to execute the season that they've created.
Mr. Zach, welcome to the show.
Oh, hey.
I want to personally thank you for the $4.99.
Hey, man, it's all in a day's work.
Thank you.
Yeah,
good to have you. Are you? What do you think? What do you think? But whoa. That thumbnail.
Also,
you made,
Brian, what's up, dude?
Hey, Zach.
Hold on, Zach, before you take over the show.
Yeah.
That thumbnail you made with the skinny dude and the giant nose.
Oh, okay. So there was a commenter that was like, "Hey, why do you have to do Sevan like that?" That was not you.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, then the person who said that, why do you got to do Sevan like that? Fuck you. Because then that's actually me. It's that person being mean to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Zach J.R. Howell. He is the Nostradamus of the CrossFit space. He knows all the workouts even before they enter Adrian's mind.
Really?
Yes.
No.
It's true. He's in denial. Zach, Michael Sarah called. He wants his mustache back.
Oh, God. Why you got to do me like that? I've actually gotten more compliments than people have shit on my mustache. So that's why I keep it. When the ratio flips, then I'll get rid of it. Yep. That's me.
Wow.
Is this just going to be the roast of Zach? I'm down for it. Let's do it.
No, we want to hear what's interesting. You made that video, basically nerds. It's the nerds versus nerds. It's
right.
What do you think? Do you think we're just, what do you think? You have an opinion? You have a strong opinion on what we're talking about?
So the basis of that video was like, I was in Key West with my family and I was like, I want to go take a class, just see what happens. There was a pretty cool gym. So I got a lift in there and then I was like, I just want to do it. And I looked at the workout and it was like max front squat and max back squat. That's mainly why I went. I just definitely cherry picked it, but I went and the dude I was paired with back squatted 405. The dude next to me back squatted 365. The dude on the other side of me back squatted 365. Like here I am on an island in Key West, and I just hopped in the 9 a.m. class in some random box, and there's 4 guys back squatting over 350 pounds.
Crazy.
Like that sort of thing, I believe, doesn't exist unless there's CrossFit. So that's where I was like, I just got all fired up, man. Cause like anytime I even mention CrossFit or like tell my channel like that I like it or that it has that it's kind of like something that we need to recognize as being here, they always give me shit back. And it's like where else are we going to find that? We got to talk about that. But at the same time, you know, there's the people that anytime that someone likes to criticize CrossFit or sometimes there's typical problems in CrossFit, the CrossFitters, the Kool-Aid drinking CrossFitters that I talked about in that video as well, you know, they get on my case too. It's like the nuanced people, like I said, Sevan, first time I was on here, you and Hiller and Brian and, you know, D'Souza and everyone else, like,
D'Souza.
That's what I said, D'Souza.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Is that his name? D'Souza?
No, but yes, it is. Now that you said it is.
Well, because there's a jiu-jitsu player who's D'Souza. But anyways, you know, you guys are like my people in that you have. Oh, Souza. Yeah, sorry, my bad, dude. You guys are my people in that you have nuance, and that's like that's all that video is about. That's it. You know, and it went pretty well on Instagram as well.
What do you think about the heavy there? I mean, I think CrossFit's gone. I mean, there's a lot of us. Well, there's two things going on. One, we don't like other people from the outside talking shit about us. You know, it's like our mom, you know, like I'll complain to you about my mom, but if you say something about my mom, it's fucking goes sideways. We're kind of, blood's thicker than water. So kind of those of us inside the fence, we're kind of okay talking shit. But as soon as someone outside the fence starts throwing rocks, we're like, fuck you, get them.
There's this guy, Alex Bromley. He's got a great channel. You definitely got to check it out. He's a good dude. And I was on his podcast and we were talking about how CrossFitters would do really well in like the weight class variation of strongman competition, because there is a lot of that element of strongman in CrossFit. And there's a lot of muscular endurance in CrossFit, obviously. And there's a lot of muscular endurance in strongman. Like some of the events are max rep squats. Okay. Like that, a CrossFitter can do that all day, you know? Oh no, Brian signed off.
It's okay.
Shit.
No, don't worry about Brian. He's good. He probably had to take a deuce or something.
But you know what I mean?
JR's going next. Don't worry. JR will vanish next before you know it'll just be me. Look at. Yeah. These guys. Hey, they're East Coast guys. And you know,
thank
you, JR. Don't feel bad, JR. I'm here with Zach.
Word.
And so I was, you know, thinking about that. And it's like, here are two dudes that are kind of like outside the sport that are putting respect on it. And I think more people need to do stuff like that for sure. But also criticism is always welcome too. Like it's how the sport grows. It's how it gets better.
What do you think about the judging? Did you watch any of the show today? Did you hear us talking about the judging and the problems and the VIA? Basically, there's two things going on, right? Introduction of new movements, it may be appropriate or inappropriate times, and then the capacity for the mothership to do adequate judging. Wouldn't you say those are the two main things, JR?
Yeah, sums it up good.
Yeah, like the CrossFit's between a rock and a hard place, right? Because I was just thinking about it like, okay, if we get rid of quarterfinals and we just go back to the old system, all you really care about are the top scores, right? Because like that's who we're sending, that's who we're taking to regionals, but it's now semifinals. But I was thinking about it like if we just did that, you know, let's say someone does poorly on something, you know, and gets like 200th place or 300th place, and they're trying to make it to regionals. If we went back to the regional system, you know, how many of those people above them were cheating and doing shitty reps? So it puts so much extraneous pressure on the open to be this very official thing. And so there needs to be this midway mark. Well, I think you guys brought this up. There's, I don't know how many athletes, 10,000 athletes or something like that, sending in, you know, 3,000?
30. Is it 30, JR?
That, yeah, like worldwide.
30,000 go from the open to quarterfinals.
And how many hours of footage per person? You know, so how much, like, it's impossible to view all of that footage in 5 days. And I think you guys went over that. So now they have an even bigger problem. So I have no idea what the answer is, but it's a very interesting thing. I can't think of another sport where this exists. This is wild. It is wild.
What's kind of interesting though is like you could not make it into the NFL or into the NBA or into Major League Baseball, and you're not going to get any explanation. Like, fuck you, you're not in, team didn't pick you. Like, you don't get shit, right?
Right.
But
Meat
here,
factory.
Say that again, Jer.
It's a meat factory.
Right. But here we expect a transparent, empirically driven data set to push people on. And we have these weird things like Mal O'Brien who believe is the fucking, the fourth coming, or the fifth coming, whatever it is now where we're at with these greats. And yet she stepped out of she did something that it says in the rule book invalidates the score. Like, what
somebody
are we gonna do?
somebody said the word is may in there. So like you may not step
No.
out, or is it must not?
It says I think it just says straight up, if you step out, your score will be invalidated.
Whoa. I saw that. Hillary pointed that out earlier.
I mean, and then of course there's the other thing too. There's these other people like James Newberry, his camera turned off, or this Marissa Flowers, her camera turned off, and it's like, holy shit! It's like these are great people who've given us shitload of time. I personally don't want to submissions. Maybe okay, nope, I'm wrong. Maybe invalidated. Okay, so it's up to them.
Yeah. Do you have you guys heard of High Rocks?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yep.
Hunter McIntyre whoops ass at.
So I think each one of those competitions has like thousands of people in it per one.
Okay, yeah,
Like, what if there was a stage like that? I don't know. It's
right.
it is really weird to be competing in your own gym and then going on to the semis. But I do think it was getting a little ridiculous with the regional thing. They were taking the top 20 of each gender, and it was like,
Sex. You mean each sex?
sex. Yeah, sure, Sevan.
Sex, male and female, genitalia.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward. What do you think about? Would you personally enter the? Would you ever enter as the women's comp to get the money?
I would probably get my ass whooped anyways.
Right.
The only thing
I know CrossFit's too hard,
dude. I did the clean and jerk workout, which is cool.
Hey, Chris, what's up? How are you?
Yeah.
What's going on?
What's up, Chris? Long time.
Hey, what's
You're
Chris Williamson, everyone.
right when he came in, the mic just automatically turned off.
who is this?
Did it?
Chris, how are you? Welcome back, buddy.
What's happening?
Good. Your mic keeps going out. I think when he turns it to you, it has a filter for English accents.
Bullshit
Are we good?
filter?
Yeah, now we're good.
Is it
Okay.
a bullshit filter.
It filters
Yeah,
out
the
English.
British
What,
bullshit
can you keep your hands above the in camera's view, Chris? It's weird with you sitting at him like that and me not being able to see your hands.
No, his head has got to go down.
I promise.
How is it living with Zach, Chris?
It's good, man. It's good. We train a lot. He's a excitable little fucking sheepdog. So he offsets my British dourness quite nicely.
And you're a Taoist also.
Dour.
Oh, dour.
Like,
Dour.
yes,
Yeah.
just a little, we could be a little bit more upbeat.
We talked about this, the cutting down the tall poppy thing, and Chris and I, lifting each other up and shit. I'm the opposite of that. People wouldn't like me in the UK, I don't think.
You lift him up, he cuts you down.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Well, it's good for men. When men cut each other down, it's kind of nice though, because in a way, it's like a compliment.
Yeah, and also like I know at any point of the day, like he lives in this house back here.
Yeah,
I just like can bust open the door and go, "What's up, pussy?" and then close the door and walk away.
Oh, thank you. Dour. Relentlessly serve, stern, or gloomy in a matter of or manner or appearance. Who used that word? My God. Chris, you used that?
The guy whose country invented the language that you're speaking right now.
Right. Thank you.
Put some respect on that.
Done. Respect given. Chris, what do you think about Zach's rebirth as a CrossFitter? Him revisiting his CrossFit days.
I love CrossFit, man. I think it's a great training modality. Both of us have said CrossFit is one of the few training modalities that if you even begin to mention it on the internet, almost everybody has a problem with it except for CrossFit. And yet I've never had as quick results with the way that I look and the way that my fitness feels than doing it. So it doesn't surprise me that he's got back into it. I went and trained with him yesterday.
Yep.
Went to the box that he's training at yesterday, and we just did relatively easy little chuggy thing. And it was great. I enjoyed it. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's just so effective, man. It's just so effective. It's strength and conditioning at a high pace,
Dick Butter, the mustache is making so much sense now. Eric Weiss, who is the big spoon?
We rotate. We rotate. Yeah.
They have equity.
Mhm.
They have equity
I think
amongst their.
tonight's my night.
They have equity amongst their genders. Is Brian coming back? Not till we do our frisbee show.
I'll leave you to it, gentlemen. I appreciate
Chris, hey, great seeing you, brother. Thanks for the cameo. God, Chris Williamson.
That's what I deal with.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. You guys got to check out his shit. Anyone who's watching right now.
That's
Gotta watch
big
his
time.
stuff. Yeah.
That's big time. Chris Williamson. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, dude.
Does he ever go live?
No.
Do you ever go live?
No, I don't. You guys have you and Hiller are like doing this live thing. It's crazy. Like it's just a different world. It's pretty cool actually. And if you build up the right culture to where people will do donations and like chat donations and stuff, it's cool. But I think Twitch has more of that culture. Like they have subscriptions, and then they have like a lot of people donate as you go. But you seem to have this going, and it's working really well. How many people are watching right now?
790.
God damn.
We tried to go live on Twitch, but for some reason it just kept. Well, it says we are live on Twitch. Susan, it says we are live on Twitch right now, up here in the right hand corner. You see that?
Oh, you are?
Yeah, we're sorry for the mic thing. Yeah, we're live on all of them except for Rumble. We've just had an issue with.
Oh, I can click view on Twitch.
What does that change?
Oh shit!
Oh, there's a whole new world. Did we just enter a wormhole? Really? Could I click it too?
Watch this. I'll share it. Hey, but I don't think we have any viewers on Twitch. Hey, but I don't think we have viewers on Twitch.
Whoa, we're getting get out of here now. Oh my god. What the fuck was that? Holy shit.
Like I said, it's a weird paradigm.
Sarah Cox, $4.99. Would you ever consider doing testosterone replacement therapy?
Oh, for
Zach?
sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I know a person if you get interested. If you need your blood work.
Okay. Well,
And a doctor.
I got my blood work done, and I've actually been put with the doctor, but we're not doing any hormone replacement. We're just like working on some things, and it's been pretty nice. It's been pretty nice.
And what happened with Nicky Rod? You went and got Nicky Rod's.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Great. I'm actually doing his podcast tomorrow, which is going to be fun.
He has a podcast.
Yeah, he just started it. So
wow.
Yeah.
No wonder he's not fucking responding to any of my texts anymore. I had a good run with him, and now he's he's ghosting me. I won't let him though. I'll keep bugging him.
Yeah. Keep bugging him. That'll be fine. I'll tell him to respond to you.
I appreciate it. Hey, so he came back. Your homeboy, Mr. Dates.
Yep.
Exonerated him.
Yeah, he exonerated him, but he said he was pre-diabetic, which is very kind of scary. There's a bunch of blood levels. I haven't even really watched the full thing yet. But it's cool. I mean, look, with these natty or not things, like people are just going to push the goalposts every single time. You know, like they'll be like, this blood test doesn't mean anything. It's not USADA. It's not this. And then say he passed a USADA test. They'd be like, well, he probably cycled off. And, you know, there's no way you can prove anything in this world anymore, which is kind of frustrating, but it's also kind of the way it works. People are frustrated in general. I just made this video with Kalipa. I just had Kalipa on my podcast. And we talked about, one of the things that we talked about here was that CrossFitters are getting younger and younger. It's something that I noticed. And the only 90% of the comments, I said that the video was titled, why are elite CrossFitters getting younger and younger? And like 90% of the comments were like PED use. Like it had nothing really to do with that. I was explaining how the people that can take the hardest and heaviest training are usually going to be around 18-year-old girls, and they're usually going to be around 22 to 23-year-old males. And now the sport is so advanced that is the wheelhouse. That is where we're going to see the best. And we are with Emma Carey, Emma Lawson.
I don't think those people are on PEDs, though. I don't think Lawson and Carey are PEDs. I think that happened with gymnastics, right? It just got younger and younger.
Yeah, it's the same thing. That's the sport's getting dialed and dialed down. And like these girls, like I believe can be natural and can take on this. But when you get to the age of Tia, it's like, okay, 30 years old, like that's, you're pushing it a little bit. Maybe that's where PEDs could end. I'm not assuming anything. I'm not saying anything. What I could say is this, okay? If you were to say that Emma Lawson is on steroids, you would have to also say that her parents, who I've heard are really great people, her family, she's got a good family unit, you would have to say that they're complicit in something incredibly illegal, right? Like,
I always think of it that way too.
It's
when
illegal.
anyone would say
It's
Mal
illegal.
is, I'm like, dude, she's fucking 16.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, in the systems of the past in weightlifting, I actually covered this on one of my videos. If you could pull it up, it's like I don't know. I think I did it like a couple months ago. I forget the name of it, but I talked about children getting steroids and getting caught with their piss had exogenous hormones in them, and it's happening in weightlifting like endlessly. And I talked about the East Germans. So giving and Max Ada actually said this on the Power Project. He's a big weightlifting coach. He said in some of the Soviet coaches that he talked to, you go through puberty and that's when you get steroids. That's it. That's when it happens. And he was like, dead. Yeah, it's a horrific use of PEDs in children.
Hey, why do you think they're getting younger? Or do you think that that's even true?
No, it's definitely true. I just think it's like any other professional sport. It's a young man's game, a young woman's game. I mean, you look at the NFL, look at any professional sport that requires, you could just say in quotation marks, intense, hard, really, really hard training, hard on your body type training. I mean, 30 is old. Like that's NFL, that's CrossFit. It's becoming that, like there's some of the old guards still left that's still hanging around in their early 30s. But I mean, that number will keep getting younger and younger.
For sure.
And then we have the other issue also right now, even though the men's division is more developed, women are making the jump at a younger age than men. Sorry, Brian, I didn't read your post. Brian, thank you for the money, buddy. A donation for JR getting trapped in a surprise live call-in show. Love you, Zach. Tons of people just started commenting from Twitch, which is funny. I think that's people from our show who went over and downloaded Twitch. Zach, I really appreciate you coming on. I would keep you on longer. We're 2 hours and 7 minutes. I really do appreciate you coming on. Thanks for jumping on. It's great for my show. It's great to always see you. And you bring such great energy, man.
Thank you for having me. And also to everyone in the chat, thank you guys for putting up with my shit and allowing, a cretin. Is it cretin or cretin? To come in at like a
Cretin.
Yeah, just to come in and just blow through. I appreciate everyone.
No, it's awesome. Thank you. And the reason why I waited so long to bring you on is I suspected Brian would split if we did, because he likes to keep the show very focused, and I don't blame him at all. And I thought, okay, if I bring Zach in, we're going to lose a little bit of focus.
Oh man! By the way, do you know I know Brian? I've known Brian for a long time. We like kind of we came up in the same gym.
Started CrossFit together, I think.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yep. Back in like 2014 or some shit.
Were you guys friends?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., Zach will be on and we will discuss the George Floyd incident in detail. Zach personally went to the morgue and pulled blood from George Floyd's dead body and then took them to Nick Plate's dates, and they looked at his blood. And although George was on a variety of supplements, they are most concerned that he also is pre-diabetic. And we will be talking about that.
Natty or not, coming up.
Yeah.
All right. Jesus fucking Christ, Sevan. I can't. Dude.
It's a dangerous place you stepped into. It's a dangerous place.
Okay. All right. I'll see you guys. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Bye-bye.
His laugh cracks me up.
JR, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah, no, 11:06. I said I was leaving. That stayed on too long.
I can't even believe it. You stayed. Okay, so I do think, JR, we need to do a semifinal show or a couple of them, right? We need to at least go through and love on some of the people who made it, right? Go through and just look at all the people and love on them and be like, yeah, this person's cool. This person's good at this and kind of, and then maybe once again, revisit right before the semifinals and then pick the winners.
Yeah, because I mean, before the programming comes out, we can kind of go through, like we can do a show on the men and a show on the women and go through and say, hey, what's this person's GOAT, or what is in the top 20, who's got something that they hope doesn't come out? And if it does, is it going to knock them out of contention? And then when the workouts do come out, then we can get on and say, hey, based on the workouts, who does the programming line up really well for? And who is it going to be tough for?
Do they give clues? The equipment list thing is over, right? We're done with that.
Yeah, that's over. And I would say that like you may be able to make some inferences based on what comes out for the teams and maybe the age group quarterfinals, because sometimes you'll see some overlapping. But if the way that he's done it so far is any indication, like he may wait till a day or two before to release the workouts. Like he released them a lot later than Dave always did.
Okay.
Leading up to the games. So, I mean, hopefully we get them, I would say a week out probably is what you would think. Maybe like Tuesday or Wednesday of the week prior to. That's usually about when they start trickling out.
Okay. And then another thing, we will be visiting Masters. We will be having what I'm really hoping for is that Rich does the Masters events, and then we can have Rich on. And then even if Rich doesn't do the Masters events, we'll try to drag his ass in here.
Still have
and
Rich
pick
on.
it. Yeah. We'll still have Rich on. And then we'll have Rich on again. And then we'll ask him to come on again. Okay. Thank you guys. Everyone have a great night. Tomorrow I will be here. I'm not sure if I will be here at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time or 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, but I will be here, and I will be
6
I will be
a.m.
extremely fired up. If you didn't miss this morning's show, I think it was one of the best shows that I've ever done. Okay. Talk to you guys soon. Oh, is that Noah? Oh, I thought that was
You could comment little emojis like that on Twitch.
I thought that was the guy from who took over Jon Stewart's job. All right, guys.